Bugatti said that they can't split this car in half, and then like it'll clip me like splitting it in half, and then it'll be like, oh, Bugatti got owned.
Imagine spending millions of dollars on one of the rarest cars in the world, only to crash it so badly that even the company that built it says it can never be repaired again. Most people think the story ends there. The insurance company pays out, the damaged car disappears into a warehouse, and everyone moves on. But what if someone refused to accept that ending? What if one YouTuber decided to challenge one of the biggest names in the automotive world and prove that what Bugatti called impossible could actually be done? That is exactly what happened when Mat Armstrong took on one of the craziest rebuild projects ever seen on YouTube. This was not just another supercar restoration or another exciting garage project. This was a battle against impossible odds, against factory rules, and against a reputation built over more than 100 years. By the time the project was finished, millions of people around the world were watching every new episode, wondering if Mat Armstrong would become the first independent builder to bring a destroyed Bugatti back to life. But the biggest surprise came after the car was rebuilt. Everyone started asking one simple question: what is this Bugatti actually worth now? The answer turned out to be far more complicated than anyone expected. To understand why this question became such a huge topic, you first need to understand the car itself. The vehicle at the center of this incredible story is a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of the rarest and most exclusive hypercars ever built. Bugatti created only 60 examples of the Pur Sport, making it much rarer than most people realize. Every single car was sold to wealthy collectors before production was even completed. Owning one was never simply about having enough money. Buyers often had to build a relationship with Bugatti and wait patiently for the opportunity to purchase one. The Pur Sport was designed for people who wanted more than just incredible speed. While the standard Chiron was already one of the fastest production cars on Earth, the Pur Sport focused even more on handling, cornering, and driver involvement. Powered by an incredible quad-turbocharged W16 engine producing around 1,600 horsepower, it represented some of the most advanced engineering ever placed into a road car. Every detail, from the lightweight wheels to the specially designed suspension, existed for one purpose: creating the ultimate driving experience. Because only 60 cars were ever built, every single example became incredibly valuable almost immediately. Depending on condition, mileage, and specifications, many Pur Sports have been valued at several $1 million, with some estimates reaching $6 million or even higher. That level of rarity meant one important thing. If one of these cars was destroyed, replacing it would never be easy. Then came the accident that changed everything. The Bugatti belonged to Miami-based content creator Alex Gonzalez, better known online as Spot. During a drive in late 2025, disaster struck, and the front of the rare hypercar suffered massive damage. The crash destroyed expensive carbon fiber body panels, damaged critical components, and raised serious questions about the structural safety of the car itself. When Bugatti specialists inspected the wreck, they reached a conclusion that shocked almost everyone. According to the company, repairing the vehicle would cost an enormous amount of money, and they reportedly believe restoring it properly was simply not worth the effort. Some reports suggested repair costs approaching $2 million in parts alone, while others explained that the factory had little confidence in repairing such extensive damage outside its own highly controlled facilities. For most people, that would have been the end of the story. A multi-million-dollar Bugatti had become an incredibly expensive piece of damaged carbon fiber. But someone watching from across the Atlantic saw something completely different. Where everyone else saw a car beyond saving, Mat Armstrong saw the biggest challenge of his entire career. Without realizing it, he was about to begin a journey that would test his skills, his patience, and his reputation more than any project he had ever attempted before. By the time Mat Armstrong heard about the crashed Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, the story had already started spreading across the car community. News of a destroyed multi-million-dollar Bugatti travels fast because accidents involving cars this rare almost never happen. Most people expected the damaged vehicle to disappear quietly into a private collection or remain hidden inside a warehouse forever. That is often what happens with rare hypercars after serious crashes. Wealthy owners either keep the wreck for spare parts or sell it privately, where very few people ever hear about it again. Mat Armstrong was different. His entire YouTube career had been built on taking cars that everyone else believed were beyond repair and bringing them back to life. Over the years, viewers had watched him rebuild Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, and even cars that had been flooded or completely written off by insurance companies. Every successful rebuild made his audience trust him more, but the Bugatti represented a completely different level of difficulty. This was no ordinary supercar. It was one of the most valuable production cars ever made, filled with technology that very few mechanics in the world had ever worked on. Even experienced workshops often refused to touch Bugattis because the engineering was so complex. That is exactly why Mat knew this project would become the biggest challenge of his life. Instead of waiting for more information, Mat quickly booked a flight to the United States so he could inspect the damaged Bugatti with his own eyes before anything happened to it. He wanted to understand whether the car truly was beyond saving or whether there was still hope hidden beneath the broken carbon fiber. Even reaching the workshop turned into an unforgettable experience. While driving through Miami, another accident happened involving members of Mat's team. A passing Chevrolet collided with a Ferrari connected to the group, creating yet another expensive repair before they had even begun working on the Bugatti itself. Looking back, it almost felt like a warning that this entire project would be filled with unexpected problems. Still, nothing could prepare Mat for what he saw when he finally stood in front of the damaged Chiron Per Sport. The front end looked devastating. The beautiful carbon fiber body had been ripped apart. Both headlights were destroyed, the front grille was crushed, and expensive body panels that normally looked like works of art were now cracked and twisted. The damage immediately showed why Bugatti had reacted so cautiously. This was not simply replacing a few broken parts. This involved rebuilding one of the most carefully engineered cars ever created. As the inspection continued, the financial reality became even more shocking. Reports suggested that Bugatti estimated roughly $1.7 million in replacement parts alone if the factory performed the repair according to its own standards. That number did not even include many additional costs such as transportation, labor, inspections, and testing. Considering that the car itself had originally sold for several $1,000,000, many people believed repairing it no longer made financial sense. The insurance company agreed that the Bugatti was a total loss and paid out the claim. However, instead of letting the vehicle disappear forever, owner Alex Gonzalez made a surprising decision. He purchased the wreck back after the insurance process, reportedly spending around $1.9 million to keep ownership of the damaged Hypercar. To most people, paying nearly $2 million for a car that could not even drive sounded completely unreasonable. But Alex understood something important. There were only 60 Per Sports in existence, and once one was destroyed, replacing it was almost impossible. Even a heavily damaged example still represented something incredibly rare. That decision opened the door for Mat Armstrong to attempt what many experts believed could never be done. As exciting as that sounded, the biggest obstacle had not even appeared yet. The damaged carbon fiber, broken lights, and missing body panels were only the beginning. Soon, Mat would discover that the greatest challenge was not rebuilding the Bugatti itself. It was convincing Bugatti to let him try. The moment Mat Armstrong started looking deeper into the project, he realized that rebuilding the Bugatti was not simply about replacing broken parts. The biggest obstacle was Bugatti itself. Unlike many other car manufacturers, Bugatti has extremely strict rules when it comes to repairing its vehicles, especially after major accidents. Every Chiron is built with an advanced carbon fiber monocoque that acts as the main structure of the entire car. It is not like a normal vehicle where damaged body panels can simply be removed and replaced. The carbon tub is the heart of the car, and if there is even the slightest doubt about its strength, Bugatti refuses to certify the vehicle as safe. From the company's point of view, this approach makes perfect sense. A Bugatti Chiron is capable of reaching speeds that very few road cars can achieve. At those speeds, even the smallest structural weakness could have devastating consequences. Because of that, Bugatti follows a simple rule. If the company cannot guarantee the safety of a repaired car, it would rather refuse a repair altogether than take any risk. That policy immediately placed Mat in an almost impossible situation. Even if he repaired every damaged component perfectly, there was no promise that Bugatti would ever officially recognize the work. The problems became even more serious when reports began circulating that Bugatti had effectively locked the car's VIN after the insurance write-off. The VIN, or vehicle identification number, is like a car's fingerprint. It tells manufacturers exactly which vehicle they are dealing with and allows authorized dealers to order genuine replacement parts. According to multiple reports discussed throughout the rebuild, once the VIN was flagged, official Bugatti dealerships could no longer simply sell parts for that specific car. For an ordinary vehicle, this would already be frustrating. But for a Bugatti Chiron per Sport, it was almost catastrophic. There were no aftermarket companies producing replacement body panels, no warehouses full of spare parts, and no independent suppliers carrying shelves of Chiron components. Only 60 per Sports had ever been built, which meant there was almost no second-hand parts market anywhere in the world. Every damaged component suddenly became a major problem. A cracked carbon fiber panel was not something you could order online. A broken headlight was not sitting on a shelf waiting to be shipped. Even small mechanical pieces could take months to locate, if they could be found at all. The more Matt learned about the situation, the clearer it became that this rebuild would require far more than mechanical skill. It would demand creativity, patience, and a willingness to solve problems that no one had faced before. Determined to understand whether there was any official path forward, Matt visited an authorized Bugatti dealership and spoke directly with factory representatives. He hoped there might be some process that would allow him to rebuild the car while still receiving factory approval. Instead, the answer was direct and disappointing. If the carbon fiber structure had been compromised, Bugatti would not certify an independent repair. The only official solution was to send the entire car back to the Bugatti factory in Molsheim, France, where specialists could inspect every component and rebuild it according to factory standards. While that sounded reasonable in theory, the estimated cost made the option almost impossible. A complete factory restoration could approach the value of buying another ultra-expensive car, and the process would take an enormous amount of time. For most owners, that would have ended the discussion immediately. But Mat Armstrong had never built his reputation by choosing the easiest path. His YouTube channel existed because he believed that damaged supercars deserved a second chance, even when manufacturers and insurance companies had already given up on them. This project was becoming much bigger than repairing one Bugatti. It was turning into a battle between factory perfection and independent determination. Around the world, millions of viewers were beginning to pick sides, wondering whether one determined builder could prove that impossible did not always mean impossible. The real fight was only just beginning, and soon it would reach the highest level inside Bugatti itself. As Mat Armstrong continued planning to rebuild, the story suddenly grew far bigger than a damaged car sitting in his workshop. What had started as another ambitious YouTube project was now attracting attention from one of the most respected names in the automotive world. Millions of people were following every update online, and discussions about the Bugatti were spreading across YouTube, social media, and car forums. Some viewers admired Matt's confidence and believed he could once again prove the experts wrong. Others thought he was risking his reputation by attempting something that even Bugatti's own specialists considered too dangerous. The debate became even more intense when Mat Rimac, the CEO of Bugatti Rimac, publicly commented on the rebuild. It is not every day that the chief executive of a company worth billions of dollars responds directly to the project of an independent YouTuber. That alone showed just how unusual this rebuild had become. Instead of ignoring the videos, Mat Rimac addressed the claims being made online and explained why Bugatti takes such a careful approach when repairing its hypercars. From the company's perspective, this was never simply about replacing damaged parts. It was about protecting lives, maintaining engineering standards, and preserving the reputation of one of the world's most exclusive car brands. One of the biggest points of disagreement involved replacement parts. Earlier in the project, there had been discussions about using modern manufacturing methods, such as 3D printing for certain components that were impossible to obtain through normal channels. Mat Rimac pushed back against those ideas, explaining that many Bugatti parts are designed to extremely precise standards and cannot simply be recreated without extensive testing and certification. He also questioned some of the repair cost figures circulating online, suggesting that many estimates people were repeating were not entirely accurate. His comments quickly became headline news because they created an unusual situation. On one side stood a global automotive manufacturer with decades of engineering knowledge and strict safety procedures. On the other side stood Mat Armstrong, an independent creator who had earned millions of subscribers by rebuilding vehicles that everyone else believed were finished. Neither side was attacking the other personally, but both clearly viewed the situation from very different perspectives. For viewers, this disagreement only made the story more exciting. It no longer felt like a simple rebuild series. It had become a public discussion about engineering, safety, innovation, and whether determination could sometimes overcome rules that appeared impossible to break. Despite the public disagreement, Mate Rimac also made an offer that surprised many people. He reportedly told Matt that the damaged Bugatti could be sent to the Bugatti factory in Motium for a proper inspection and factory repair. For many people, that would have seemed like the perfect solution. The car would be repaired by the people who designed it, genuine parts would be used wherever necessary, and Bugatti itself could certify the work. However, accepting that offer would also change the entire purpose of the project. Matt's goal had never been simply to own a repaired Bugatti. His goal was to prove that an independent team, using skill, patience, and creative problem-solving, could restore a car that almost everyone had already written off. Choosing the factory route would end that challenge before it had truly begun. After careful consideration, Matt decided to continue with his own rebuild instead of handing the project over to Bugatti. It was a decision filled with enormous risk. If the rebuild failed, critics would point to it as proof that Bugatti had been right from the beginning. If it succeeded, however, it would become one of the most remarkable independent automotive rebuilds ever documented on YouTube. As work slowly continued inside the workshop, something unexpected began to happen. The relationship between Mat Armstrong and Bugatti started to change. The company that had originally appeared unwilling to support the project gradually became less confrontational, and before long, signs appeared that cooperation might actually be possible. That shift would completely change the direction of the rebuild and give Matt a chance that very few people believed he would ever receive. Just when it seemed that the rebuild had reached a dead end, the story took another unexpected turn. After weeks of public discussions and growing attention from millions of viewers around the world, Bugatti's attitude toward the project slowly began to change. The company that had originally appeared completely unwilling to support the rebuild no longer seemed quite as firm in its position. Reports suggested that the restrictions surrounding replacement parts were eased, and some of the early repair estimates were also revised. While Bugatti never fully explained every detail behind this shift, many people believe the enormous public interest surrounding Mat Armstrong's project had become impossible to ignore. Every new video attracted millions of views. Automotive news websites covered every major update, and social media was filled with debates about whether an independent garage could really accomplish something that one of the world's greatest car manufacturers had considered impossible. Whatever the exact reason, the change gave Matt and his team a valuable opportunity. They still faced countless obstacles, but at least the rebuild no longer felt completely isolated from the company that had created the car. Even so, the hardest mechanical challenges were still waiting inside the Bugatti itself. One of the biggest problems involved the car's transmission. The Bugatti Chiron Per Sport is designed in a unique modular way, allowing the front and rear sections of the vehicle to be separated when necessary. However, according to statements discussed during the rebuild, this process